warm welcome to all of you. I, Samhita Joshi Ranade, welcome all of you Foundation Day lecture of Mimamsa Foundation for Indic Studies. It is a matter of great joy that Mimamsa has just completed 1 year. And to mark this occasion, we have with us Professor Subhash Kak, who is distinguished computer scientist and an Indologist, as a chief guest to deliver first Foundation Day lecture. On the behalf of Mimamsa team, sir, I would like to thank you, and we are very happy that you accepted our invitation. On Akshay Tritiya, we announced the beginning of this particular forum under the name Mimamsa and Indic Inquiry. And on 1st May 2020, we opened this particular forum under the website for public. And throughout this journey, we were having proper guidance and constant encouragement from all of our mentors. Some of them are present today with us. We have with us Professor Prasad Joshi, who is Vice Chancellor of Deccan College Postgraduate and Research Institute, Pune. We have with us Professor Manjusha Gokhale, Madam. She is currently Dean of the Faculty of Arts and Fine Arts at Tirak Maharashtra Vidyapith, Pune. And we also have with us Professor Radhakrishnan Pillai, who is founder and director of Chanakya Institute of Leadership. We thank all of you for being here, for joining us. And we are happy that we are receiving your blessings and wishes on this special occasion for us. Thank you so much. Now, I would like to request Akshay to give us a brief review of all the activities and initiatives that Mimamsa has undertaken in the past 1 year. Over to you, Akshay.
Thank you, Samhita. At the outset, I once again want to thank Dr. Subhash Kak and all our mentors, Prasad Joshi sir, Radhakrishnan Pillai sir, and Manjusha ma'am, having taken out time from all of your busy schedules and joining us today. As already pointed out by Samhita, we began, as a forum, as a forum for students like us to start understanding and learning India in an authentic Indian way. We began that as a forum with the name Mimamsa and Indic Inquiry. And throughout that 1 year, one constant thing that has been, or one fundamental aspect that has strived us to move is that we believe India needs to be studied in a very Indianized way. We believe that socio-political, geographical, and cultural specificities of India needs to be incorporated to study India. Somehow the colonial experience and the colonial scholarship detached Indic studies from its Indic roots. And that influence, unfortunately, has been generations after that. But our forefathers and these big scholars have actually left behind us a plethora of academic work, plethora of knowledge we just have to look and start learning from. So we, under the guidance of all our mentors, we thought if we could build a platform through which we can develop a narrative which is rooted in Indic value systems. The idea was to start learning how we can understand India. This, lot of scholars, lot of people have actually spent their entire life in understanding one aspect of India. So we understand what the mammoth task it is, but we want to do that small little the way we could do. And we realized one thing, that it cannot be done in isolation. It cannot be done in silos. We have to study India in an interdisciplinary way. We have to study India under the constant guidance of people who have spent their life in doing that. So we believe that if at all we could bring together academic scholars and students like us on one platform, probably we could create a forum through which such kind of studies can be done and undertaken. And that was the genesis of actually creating a forum like Mimamsa. And when we say interdisciplinary way, we believe that there are 4 primary aspects or 4 pillars to study India, which we believe is instrumental in comprehensively understand India. And at Mimamsa, those 4 pillars are Vijnana, Darshana, Itihasa, and Sambhasha, which individually study the scientific and knowledge systems of India, the spiritual, philosophical, and religious heritage, India's history, and socio-political and economic thought. And from for past 1 year, what we have done is publish well-researched articles from scholars and domain experts, and the topics have ranged from the India's mathematical heritage and tradition to India's dramatics and history of India's art and culture. We have published commentaries on socio-political issues, book reviews, and also aspects of cultural heritage of regions like Kashmir and its association with Sanskrit. We have also engaged in podcasts. We have been very fortunate to have very eminent people coming and talking to us, which included people like Ram Madhav, Shakti Sinha, Shri Govindev Giriji, among others, who have been engaging with us on variety of topics. One of the prominent persons, a very prominent Islamic scholar in Islamic University of Indonesia also joined us in sort of unraveling the cultural heritage of India in the Southeast Asian nations. So our effort has been, our emphasis has been to sort of declutter some of the issues that have, arisen over entire Indic studies and start understanding how Indian value systems have evolved over years. We understand this is a very, very broad, very huge and vast topic, and we just have begun. It's just been 1 year, and we hope that under all your guidance, we will able to continue or start or contribute to the work which a lot of well-renowned people like you are already doing. For coming year, we are also planning a lot of article series, a lecture series, and I hope we will be able to sort of take this initiative one step ahead by taking all of you together under your guidance and somehow contributing to the work which you are doing. I once again want to thank all of you for joining us and actually, giving us that encouragement that is needed for students like us to take ahead. Thank you once again. So.
Thank you, Akshay. As you rightly pointed out, it's just the beginning of learning process. So there are many things which are to be done in the future. And I believe that with the support of our mentors, our guests, our viewers and readers, we will be able to create the future path progressively and positively. Let's hope for the best. In Indian tradition, we know a lot of significance is given to the institution of Guru. So to begin or to sustain any initiative, be it big or small, blessings of Guru are always considered to be very important. And we must say that since the beginning of Mimamsa, we were lucky enough to get the continuous guidance and encouragement from our gurus, from our mentors. So on this occasion, I would like to convey our deep gratitude towards our mentors and towards their constant support. Thank you, everyone. We have with us Professor Radhakrishnan Pillai, who is founder director of Chanakya Institute of Public Leadership, a research-based organization that is working to promote Indian concepts in management. He has also done extensive research on Kautilya's Arthashastra. He is author of numerous bestsellers book, and he is currently visiting faculties to various prestigious universities in India and abroad, including IIT, IIM, and IISc. He is also awarded prestigious Sardar Patel Award in 2009, and we are very fortunate to have him as our mentor. I would now like Pillai sir to share his thoughts on this.
Namaskar. It's an honor to share a dais on such a wonderful day, which is like the Jayanti of Mimamsa. And for a birthday of any particular, organization or person, and especially the first birthday, it's all about celebrations. And what an opportunity to celebrate this with stalwarts like Subhash Kak ji, Prasad ji, Manjusha ji, and of course the young dynamic couple, both Akshay and Sanhita. This word called mentor is very interesting. As it is said, son is the father of man. In the same way, what would a mentor do without mentees? I've been very fortunate right from the idea stage. I've been involved. And I'll tell you something, Subhashji, Prasadji, and Manjushaji. When they first called me up and say we are starting this, as mentors, we only have to tell yes. Baki kaam to inko hi karna hai. And it was so interestingly, I told them that please keep telling me the progress every month. So it is like, telling them, okay, we have started something, please keep reporting back. Chanakya management. And you'd be surprised, they've been sincerely updating me everything that I've been doing. And from an idea to an institution, that's the journey I'm able to see from I to I in connection with I, from idea to institution for India and Indology. So I've been very nice to see that both of them themselves as scholars, researchers are trying to get so many scholars and researchers on this particular platform. Today's as we say the main speaker is Subhashji. I will not be taking much time, only listening to him, and we have other people also to bless. But I just wanted to make 2 points over here, which I thought was important on this birthday. When a child is in the infant stage, we require a lot of care and support. But as the child starts growing up, it becomes a teenager, it's got a responsibility of taking care of others also. Friends, this is your first birthday, Mimamsa Jayanti, but we look at, years and years after this, when you become an adult, 18 years and above, you have to take care of our work, because by the time, we may be outdated, but you will be the one who will be updated. So I have this small request to all of you. Please don't look at the first birthday, but as they say, maybe 25 years, 50 years, an institution is about passing on the baton to somebody else. So both of you have started it, but it should not end with both of you. The journey should continue, as you rightly pointed out, about a Guru Sishya Parampara. So definitely my, whatever little guidance, support will always be there. I just want to also emphasize on a very interesting aspect. India currently is going through the third stage in our system of knowledge. The first was literacy, second was education, and the third is research. So in 1947, when we got freedom, we were hardly a literate country. So everybody was talking about reading, writing, so literacy. But fortunately, we are almost there. Everybody can read and write, so that's not a problem. Then came the phase of education for employment. So everybody's talking about degrees, but I think that phase is also over. Today is about research. The most educated person also may not be a researcher, but a researcher adds value to every particular field. And we have 2 wonderful researchers who's connecting so many researchers in the field of Indology. So it is important that this research continues to the next level to take the Indian knowledge, not only globally, but very important to Indians itself. Finally, I just want to make one point which Swami Chinmayananji used to make. Gurudev Swami Chinmayananji, who started the Chinmaya mission, and I've been very fortunate to be part of it since my childhood. He used to say, what you have is God's gift to you. And what you do with what you have is your gift to God. So in India, we have a great tradition of this knowledge culture, so many philosophies, so many darshanas, so many shastras. And each person, as you rightly pointed out, even if he spends a lifetime on one subject also, it's not enough. But you have done that wonderful work of getting back our Rishi Parampara. We already have a great Rishi Parampara knowledge system. That's the gift of our Purvaj or our ancestors to us. But what are we doing with that? What we do with that, it's our gift to them. So you are doing this wonderful service to the nation. Please don't stop. And whenever the car gets tired without fuel, remember, we are the fuel. We'll fill in the petrol, we'll fill in the gas. And whenever you require a little bit of a break, say the driver's seat, I got tired, don't worry. We are there to take over the seat whenever required. But remember, the journey has to go beyond 1 year and it has to be limitless. Once again, congratulations, Samhita, congratulations, Akshay, and thank you for being a part of a wonderful team where I find myself to be lucky to be an advisor or a mentor. Once again, happy birthday, Janmadinam, and many, 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 many more to come. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. You rightfully pointed out that this is the age of research, and the entire attempt through this Mimamsa is nothing but to bring about that qualitative research, and we will try our best to bring that about. And I would like to share one thing here, that we used to have long brainstorming sessions with Pillai sir, and quite late at night. But he used to help us and he used to engage with us whenever we needed any sort of guidance. So we thank you once again for all your support. Thank you. We also have with us Professor Manjusha Gokhale Madam, who is a renowned Sanskritist, and currently she is the Dean of the Faculty of Arts and Fine Arts at Tiyak Maharashtra Vidyapit, Pune. She served as a professor in the Department of Sanskrit at Ramnarayan Ruia College, Mumbai for more than 20 years. She has authored a number of books and research papers on Vedic and classical Sanskrit literature, mythology, and other interdisciplinary research areas. She was also awarded Gurumani from Kala Sadan in Mumbai for her immense contribution in promoting Sanskrit, apart from several other awards. Now I would like Gokhale ma'am to share her thoughts.
Thank you, Samhita, for giving me this opportunity to share my views. I don't say that to share my views, but because I am very much eager to listen to Dr. Subhash Kak, and so I will restrict myself, and I will just say that I am wholeheartedly I agree with whatever Dr. Pillai has said just now, and really I wish you both and all of us, because mentors are the members of the team of Mimamsa. So let all of us go ahead, taking more sincerity, more enthusiasm, and let us go ahead and do everything which is possible, which we feel impossible will be also possible for us through Mimamsa. And I hope that our endeavor will climb the stairs and reach up to the highest level of Everest in this our endeavor. So I'm very thankful. I'm very happy to be the part of Mimamsa, and I assure you that whatever help I can add to Mimamsa, I am always ready to give my support and whatever is possible for me for Mimamsa. Thank you very much.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, ma'am. Actually, we first approached Gokhale madam with the idea of Mimamsa, and we remember that she was so supportive and encouraging that gave us altogether a new hope and positivity to pursue this particular initiative. And she's also helping us to find different scholars and to connect with them. So that is also a great contribution that we are looking forward to, and we have got from Gokhale madam. Thank you once again, ma'am. Now we have, we'll move to our third mentor. We have with us Professor Prasad Joshi sir, who is currently Vice Chancellor at Deccan College of Postgraduate and Research Institute, Pune. He is also General Editor of prestigious Encyclopedic Dictionary of Sanskrit on Historical Principles at Deccan College. He has authored several books and has also published a number of research articles on ancient Indian grammar, linguistics, and lexicography. He is the recipient of prestigious Badarayana Puraskar, that is President's Award for exceptional contribution in the field of preserving and propagating ancient Indian scriptures. Now I will request Joshi sir to express his thoughts.
Namaskar. Very respectable Dr. Subhash Kak, Dr. Manjusha Gokhale, Dr. Pillai sir, and the very enthusiastic Ranade couple. Today we are completing the first year of establishment of the Mimamsa Foundation. And I actually feel highly privileged and very happy, to be with you on this particular day and this platform today. This is the successful completion of first year of Mimamsa, still it is a sapling, but it is in the hands of very good scholars like Akshay and Samhita. So it is rooted in the very fertile soil of thoughts and research minded scholars. So I'm very confident that it will grow strength and strength and be developed in a full-fledged tree, uh, and which has several branches of Indian culture. Now, very the purpose of this foundation and the work that is being carried out by the foundation is very important and relevant today, because there is a lot of curiosity not only within India but outside for the Indic studies. We started sometimes in the at the end of 18th century with Sir William Jones' uh, findings that Sanskrit, Latin, and Greek are the related languages, and so there was right from that we have this development of Indology or Indic study as a discipline. And initially there was curiosity to understand the language, the Vedas, the Sanskrit language, and what is the nature of these Vedic studies. But slowly, uh, in the first rank, we have all these European and Western scholars like Max Muller and range of galaxies there, no doubt. But many Indian scholars also added to that scholarship. Take an example of Lokmanya Bal Gangadhar Tilak, who actually is in those early days when probably this Indic studies and this proto-history, these names were not even established in those early days. Adopting the methods, research methods and analytic methods which were introduced by those early scholars, he made his research and he tried to ascertain the date and place of Vedas. And there was a series of Indian scholars also, galaxy of Indian scholars, who adopting those ways of research added to the Indic studies. We must name R.J. Bhandarkar, then R.N. Dandekar, and many other scholars are there. Dr. Suktankar, who edited the magnum opus of Mahabharata, and similarly Dr. Katre, who started the Sanskrit dictionary on historical principles in India. What was the reason behind that? That Indian scholars should take up such projects because they are with the true background. Suppose a dictionary like Sanskrit is to be prepared, then it needs a lot of cultural background, not only linguistic background, but many things are involved. So such projects should be rooted in India, and Shastris and other traditional scholars were also employed. So, and last 200 years and more now, this Indological study, Indic study is gaining importance and importance day after day. And we know there are many universities, many centers, schools are open, and this curiosity is immense. So we have to fulfill this curiosity. And in this regard, the Mimamsa Foundation is a very right response to this curiosity. That's what I think. And I must encourage the efforts taken by Akshay and Samhita in this direction. They are really hardworking and taking efforts. So I wish them at this foundation very good success, good luck, and we are always there. And that my institute, Deccan College Institute, is also will be there to any individual like of this kind to encourage all of you here. So once again, congratulating the Granada couple, and I wish this foundation a great success in the times to come. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir, for aptly and briefly stating that there is a need to develop a temperament of authentic and rooted study in various disciplines which are integral to understand India today. We used to visit Joshi sir to discuss all new initiatives undertaken by Mimamsa, and Despite his higher level responsibilities and extreme busy schedule, he used to devote his time and he used to share his valuable thoughts on them. So it was very encouraging at that point of time, and your words currently right now are also encouraging for us. Thank you, sir. And yes, we also believe that this is just the beginning and this is just a sapling which needs to be garnered, which needs to be nurtured. And I hope with the blessings of all of you, we will be able to do that. Now, proceeding for the, let us proceed for the next segment. But before that, let me tell you one thing, that we are happy that 3 of our mentors could join us today, but 3 other mentors could not join us, unfortunately. So I would like to take this opportunity to introduce those 3 mentors to you, to all of you. So one of our mentors is Professor Uttara Sahasrabuddhe ma'am. She is currently head of the Department of Civics and Politics at the University of Mumbai. She's also visiting instructor at Naval War College, Goa, and has been visiting instructor to Army War College, Mahul. She is recipient of Asia Fellowship awarded by Asian Scholarship Foundation, Bangkok. She's also board member of Editors of Asian Politics and Policy, published by Willie Blackwell, and has contributed numerous articles and papers to reputed journals and books. Our next mentor is Shri Panduranga Balkavde sir, a renowned historian. Shri Balkavde is currently Secretary of Bharat Itihas Sanshodhak Mandal, Pune. An authority on Maratha history, he has published numerous papers and essays on various facets of Maratha history by studying original letter correspondences and some of the primary resources. He is also an advisor to many government institutes and universities. Also, along with these two, we have Shri Madhukar Joshi as our mentor, who is an esteemed scholar in Santa literature. He served as a reader at the Department of Marathi in University of Nagpur. He is the recipient of prestigious Jnanoba Tukaram Puraskar awarded by the government of Maharashtra for his outstanding contribution to Santa literature and humanitarian work. He is currently an advisor to famous Tanjore Maharaja Sarfoji's Saraswati Mahal Library. And we are immensely lucky that we are guided by these eminent scholars. We'll be going to miss these 3, and we are happy that these 3 mentors could join us. Now let us proceed with our lecture. When we were thinking about arranging this particular program and when we were discussing various themes and names of speakers, name of Professor Kak was very much there in our minds. And when we approached him and told him about the entire program, he quickly accepted our invitation, which was really encouraging for us because we are just budding or starting forum. We have just started with this forum. So we would like to thank him once again for that. Everybody knows that Professor Kak is a renowned Indologist. He is currently a Regents Professor at Oklahoma University in Stillwater, USA. I'll introduce him briefly. His research is on artificial intelligence, quantum computing, archaeoastronomy, and history of science. He is currently a member of Indian Prime Minister's Science, Technology, and Innovation Advisory Council. In archaeoastronomy research, he made the surprising discovery that ancient Indians knew the sun and the moon are approximately 108 times their respective diameters from the earth. This knowledge was coded into temple architecture in 1008 poses of Indian classical dance and 1008 prayer beads of Japamala. So this was a kind of a remarkable discovery that we can see on the profile of Professor Kak. He was the editor of Indian subcontinent area from the UNESCO project on archaeoastronomy sites around the world. His work has been showcased in popular media, including Discovery and History channels, PBS, Public TV in Europe, and in several documentaries on science and art. He is the author of 20 books, that include his autobiography, The Circle of Memory. For his contributions, he was awarded with prestigious Padmashri Award, and we are indeed privileged to have him with us today to deliver first Foundation Day lecture on the theme of reclaiming Indic studies towards a rooted academic ecosystem. I now request Professor Kak to guide us on this topic. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Samhita. Thank you, Akshay, Professor Prasad Joshi, Professor Manjusha Gokhale, Professor Radhakrishnan Pillai. I'm delighted to be a part of this meeting. And I think the topic is a very important one, reclaiming Indian studies or Indic studies. And Professor Prasad Joshi already mentioned how going all the way back to Bal Gangadhar Tilak and Bhandarkar and Suptankar and Dandekar and others, there was an effort to situate India's own understanding of what Indian culture and civilization is within a historical context, and to take it outside of itihas as myth that can be a component to itihas as evolution. And I can tell you that I was certainly inspired by the 1893 book by Bal Gangadhar Tilak, or the Orion, where he looked at the whole question of dating of the various texts in a very scientific way. And that's what we need. We need, in this reclamation of Indic studies, we need to use critical methods, logic, to come up with a view which is authentic, to come up with a view which is also universal, because I think what is generally forgotten and what India's critics keep on falsely accusing India of is that it is sectarian or it is narrow, which it isn't. India is universal. Indian knowledge is universal. It talks about issues which concern all mankind, namely who we are and what our history is and where does knowledge come from. You know, the whole question of epistemology and ontology in a logical way, and that's what we have in the darshanas, for example. So then what is the problem? This is all universal and the whole world should be celebrating it. The problem is complicated because this reality that we live in, the universe, is not only about knowledge, it's also about power, right? Because as human beings, we want to exercise power. It's not just the daivic aspect of it, but also the asuric aspects of it. And the asuric aspect is, of course, about power and domination. And India's recent history, or history for several centuries now, certainly the last 200-300 years, was about domination by Europe, by Britain. And once they started writing about India's past and its possible relationships to Europe's own history, the whole question of who is going to interpret this came up. And the scholars in continental Europe at some point concluded, and this is very nicely described in Vishwa Adluri and Joydeep Bakchi's book, The Nay Science. They said, we will be the ones who will decide what India's history is. And Indians do not have, due to their culture, and due to a variety of other reasons, they don't have the capacity to interpret India. So we will be the gatekeepers. And this is something that is continued to this day. And behind that was this idea, and it's really Europe fighting for itself, for its own past. Behind that was the idea, well, whatever is wonderful in India was brought to India by Europeans, by the Aryans, and then they mixed with the local people in India, and this is a kind of a racial aspect to this history. And in that, they become emotional. And the greatest thing is, of course, the Upanishads and the beginning, which should be traced back to the immigrants or the Aryans who came in. But later on, as many scholars, Sanskrit scholars were fond of saying, was that a lot of what we have in the later texts, including the Puranas or the Brahmanas, is all superstition and all that. So the bottom line was that India doesn't have science, and because it doesn't have science, we Westerners shall interpret India to Indians. And secondly, why it doesn't have science was because of this whole uh, aspect of India's history being nothing but a conflict or the interaction between different jatis or caste, the word caste, not jati, because jati is of course a reality, but caste was a word which was imposed on this framework where jatis were equated to different varnas, because as all of you know, when the British census guys came in the 1880s and 1900 and so on, they asked the various jatis across the country. They said, "What varna are you?" And they said, "We don't know. You know, we are this community." And then in the 1801 census, the British imposed their version of how the jatis were to be tied to the varnas, and that's what totally froze this system. And that is something that we are living with. In fact, one of the well-known British scholars in the 1930s said that we decry the caste system in India, but who is it who's created it? We British created it. Now, what I'm trying to say here is that certainly India had caste stratification or community-based stratification, but that's no different from societies elsewhere in the world. There was similar divisions in society. There were similar communities which were or there were communities which were more focused on, let's say, education and so on, no different from other places. But the way it got frozen by the British, by our colonial experience, has created many other problems, because certainly, in my view, until independence, there were Indians, and some of those names have already been mentioned, great scholars, but also scholars in the sciences who strode as giants on the world stage, like J.C. Bose, S.N. Bose, Meghnad Saha, C.V. Raman, and many, many others. Or even I should mention Vivekananda's name, because the famous meeting that Vivekananda had with Nikola Tesla in New York in 1898, where he told Tesla that, look, in Indian thought, and certainly he was talking about Vaisheshika, that energy and mass, because at Pralay, all the Mahabhutas get absorbed. They go through a whole sequence, which is described, for example, in the Mahabharata. So there is a transformation of matter into energy, right? And therefore, he told Tesla that you should be looking for it, because Tesla was interested in wireless. And we have record of this in a letter written by Vivekananda soon after that meeting. And we also have a record of it in Tesla's diaries. So 7 years before E equal to mc squared, which was discovered by Einstein, Vivekananda had already mentioned the possibility of such a theory. He said, well, this should be there, and why don't you look for it? But the point I want to make here is that educated Indians from Vivekananda on to J.C. Bose and S.N. Bose and all other, or Raman and everybody else, were still connected to India's own scientific tradition. Maybe they had learned it at school through their guru, or at the mandir, or wherever, at the temple and so on. But that all broke after 1947. After 1947, India decided to get completely within the framework of the Western view of India. So India is being learned by Indians, not through its own lens, through its own cultural lens, but it's being taught to Indians now for the past 70 odd years through the colonial lens. So, and the colonial lens tells us that, look, we didn't have a tradition of science, and socially, we are all, are not capable. So we must, because of the caste system, so we must always look up to the West, thinkers in the West, to make us understand what's going on, which is why the ideas of the left came in, and their categories which simply don't fit in. In fact, one of the historians, American historians, who wrote a book on India, Andre Wink, he said it's bizarre the way European medieval ideas have been used by historians like R.S. Sharma to look at Indian history in the first few centuries of this era. So in a very kind of a simple-minded way, but that's where it is. Ultimately, power is something that everybody has to contend with, and Indian academic world is controlled by Western categories. We are teaching Indian youth to look at themselves through their colonial lens, and it's not so easy to change it. Why? Because our own instructors, and they might love India as much as anybody else, they, having known of no other view but this, are totally bought into it. They believe that this is indeed the right thing, and having been separated from their tradition for 3 or 4 generations, they believe that anything else that they come across, and maybe they don't come across it because there's got to be an ecosystem. And as I mentioned, and I wrote an essay on it called The Big Scandal of Indology, which you can read up on medium.com, that there are Western scholars who are in their writing, they're saying that we cannot give an equal place to Indian Sanskritis. We Western Sanskritis will decide what India is. This is absolutely shocking. In fact, a lot of Indian Sanskritis don't even know it. There are great scholars in India. When I'm talking of the general academic thing, I'm not talking of Deccan College, right? And individual scholars who are doing great work. What I'm talking about is the general view which is adopted at most universities, such as JNU and Delhi and Bombay and so on, where people are still connected to doing things the way they're looking up to the West. Western Sanskritis. Hey, how do we see this, or how do we see that? Now, just imagine, from my perspective as a historian of science, and some of you may know that, for example, I translated Kannada's Vaisheshik Sutras a few years ago, and it's incredible. I was astonished that here in the sutras, there are, of the Newton's 3 laws, there are 2 laws which are written almost exactly the same way. And it's not plagiarized, it's not been written in, because we do have a commentatorial tradition on the Kannada Sutras, which goes back to Prashastapada, for example, the 6th century and so on. So it's not that people now, and maybe there could be something of that, for example, in Bharadwaja's Vimana Shastra, right? Maybe at least that's what the critics say, that it was just made up. But certainly, Vaisheshika is a old tradition. And here, why my question is, it's not identical. The whole view of reality is not identical to the way it evolved after the scientific revolution in Europe. And we are not saying that this therefore is to be taken as Newton's laws. But the whole thing is, why aren't Indian physicists aware of it? This is, every Western scholar, every Western scientist at some point in their career wants to go back to the Greeks and wants also to have an idea of the history of Western sciences and Western thought, right? Indian scholars don't do that anymore. Indian physicists or scientists, mostly, maybe 1 in 1,000. They don't, why? Not that they're not interested, but because the view that India had no science has been completely bought by the Indian Academy. And we don't at this point have an ecosystem. And without the ecosystem, it's very difficult to change the views of the next generation. And why is it difficult? Because you just consider a young person, a PhD student or a postdoc or a young faculty at any Indian university. How do they know about India? Well, the traditional ways of knowing things, where you went to a guru, were part of a guru parampara, guru shishya parampara. Those things are gone. We also learn the same way as Western people do, excepting in the West, as I mentioned, there's a very powerful ecosystem. There are other ways of knowing things outside of the academy. And what are those ways? These are magazine articles. These are books being produced by university presses. There are powerful publishing houses which curate information. Curation is a very important word, where you are given information which is sort of vetted by scholars. So you know that this is reliable information, right? So there's this whole system. There is documentaries being produced by the media, BBC and many other media companies. They're producing from time to time documentaries, etc. And so you absorb this information. And then there are these scholars who are writing books for the general public themselves, which is what you read, and then you get informed. Hey, this is what happened. For example, in the BBC did, I think, a multiple part series on Kerala School of Mathematics and Astronomy, and that's a very important contribution to history of mathematics, because this was a couple of hundred years prior to Newton and Leibniz, which until recently was seen as the beginning of the scientific revolution. The whole idea of infinite series, which made calculus possible, right? Now, I don't think Indian television has done it, because Indian TV is not a part of a dynamic system where you are creating information. Now, BBC did it. It was much easier for my own research on say, astronomy in the Vedic era in the early 90s, published a whole series of papers in Western academic journals, because Westerners are generally more open-minded. These scholars, this was reviewed in Royal Society and so on. So I've published a whole series of papers, and it was only later that I was also able to get these things published in Indian Journal of History of Science, or I'm on the editorial board of Brahma Vidya myself in Chennai, and so on. But what's happening in India, on the other hand, is that well-meaning people, because they are not aware of this knowledge, because the knowledge that they are getting is from the West, and most in the West are not thinking about India all the time. There's a general view of the evolution of science and society, general view of history, which they read up on, excepting those who are particularly interested in India. And there are some great Western scholars who've done wonderful work, and some of the greatest scientists have been attached to India. The very creator of quantum mechanics, Erwin Schrödinger, he was a Vedantin, and he claimed that he got the inspiration from Upanishadic Mahavakya, I am Atma Brahma. That was the central idea which got quantum mechanics going, right? In fact, I've written an essay which you might want to see, called The Indian Foundations of Modern Science. So the greatest Western science scholars are aware of it, but it's not a part of the general understanding in the Western things as well. Because when you go to outside of the great scholars, the general history that is taught in the Western Academy, as in the Indian Academy, is related to power. And India was a poor country until 20 years ago, an extremely poor country. So India was viewed from this lens of what is deficient with India. So this great story of India's extraordinary knowledge in not just the sciences, not just Kannada's Vaisheshik Sutras, but also, Ashtadhyayi, or the Natya Shastra, and all the darshanas, all the philosophy, the idea of Drishti Srishti Vada, amazing stuff, which sort of four C's developments, very subtle developments in thought, Western thought, both in epistemology and ontology. So the general idea is not to know of this, because most people don't know of all of this. So the general idea was to see, well, India is poor, so they bought on to this view, this colonial view of caste and no science, which is also to be found in India, right? That is the standard view. India is just caste, and India doesn't have a tradition of science. So Indians must always look to the West for guidance. And this has also expressed itself in the very policies India has adopted. You know, when in the 1990s, it was quite clear that the future is going to be information technology. Since Indians didn't have confidence, and so they said, well, we'll work in the office at the back. You know, just like in Fort St. George, when the English came and they set up their factory near Chennai. So the Indians were doing the ledgers and the bookkeeping in the back. The decisions were being made by the English people in Fort St. George. And this is how the company, East India Company, then spread all over. They had their factories at different places. And there were Indians always working for them. So the Indian leaders in the 1990s said, we will be the back office. You know, East India Company will be the backroom boys for the West. Now the West is East India Company on the entire globe, and we'll just do the backroom office work. We'll just do the software thing. But that's not where the money ultimately is. The money is in products. The Chinese, who used common sense, they said, we will make the products ourselves. So the Chinese are making products. They have leapfrogged over India. India is left behind. We don't have any products, right? The Chinese have all the products in information technology as well. Or the Japanese have their own things. The Koreans have their own things. And why? Because we lack confidence. Because even our best have bought into this view. But now what is happening is that the common guy, of course, I think the average guy, the people in India who are connected to their tradition have more self-confidence than those who are in the universities. And those are the guys who actually work the wheels of Indian culture or economy and all that. And India's rise is unstoppable. You know, by the time when the English came to India, 1800 or so, or late 18th century, 1700s, it's estimated by economists that India's share of the world economy was about 25 to 30%. I've read a serious paper by a Western economist that at the time of the First World War, India's share of the world economy was only 1.5%. From 25 to 30%, it had collapsed to 1.5%. And that's not because the English were going off killing people, you know, as used to happen in India before, you know, during the time of the great Shivaji, and prior to that, there used to be genocide, or, you know, mass killings and so on. They didn't do that. But in the 19th century, we had the the industrial revolution in Europe. So they created factories. There were no investments made in India. Before the 19th century, 18th centuries, Indian ships, for example, were the best in the world, or as good as European ships. And there are many, many accounts related to that. But by the end of the 19th century, India had no industry. India just became a dumping place for British goods. And for Britain, it was a very important country because Britain itself could not compete with the Germans. So they had a dynamic. They wanted to keep the Germans out, and they wanted to have control over this market, the great market for their goods. And in fact, why the First World War took place was because the Germans wanted this room as well, and they were fighting each other. But in any event, First World War, India's condition was so pitiable. You know, there had been so famines, which the title of a very famous book was called The Late Victorian Holocaust. And some of these holocausts took place in India. You know, these great famines in India from time to time, because the whole economic system had collapsed. And then there was this great famine, sort of not induced, which occurred before the Second World War in Bengal, the Great Bengal Famine, in which many millions died also. So, so India's literacy had gone down from an estimated 60, 70%, according to Dharampal, to just 10% by 1947. And so we've been fighting this battle of just knowing letters, because we were totally cut off by the British from our own education tradition. And but now India's rise is unstoppable. India is now maybe 7-8% share of the world GDP, and it's as a nation, India is expected to overtake both US and China in the next 20-30 years. In the next 10 years, perhaps overtake US itself. So things are changing. So we must, and what we need for this change, it's like two wings of the bird. As we rise economically, we must also give ourselves all the tools that we need, and these are cultural tools in the academic system and outside of it. Have an ecosystem which gives us the confidence to create products, which we have been too scared to create because we lack this confidence in the last 20 years. But that must change. And so we need an ecosystem. We don't have that right now. Where does the curation take place? Right now we have the social media, which is doing a wonderful thing, but it's not curated. There's also a lot of stuff which is sort of nonsense, right? And you do need to separate these two. We need to know our past in a way which is true, because ultimately, as I cannot stress enough, India is not a narrow view on our own past. The whole Indian lens is a universal lens. This is a lens through which not only do you see India, not only do you see society, but also the individual, which is why you have things such as yoga or Ayurveda, which are sweeping the world right now, because the people are unhappy in all corners of the world with the way society is set up, which is the way health is set up, with the way wellness is set up, because by the time people are in their 50s or 60s in the West, people are popping 30-40 pills every morning. They have become consumers or consumers for the products of pharmaceutical companies. Everything has been colonized. The body of the individual is colonized by pharmaceutical companies, which is where where their products should end. There is no knowledge in the West. There's no tradition of harmony, which is what Ayurveda is based on. And now, of course, it's not an easy to change all this, because just to talk of Ayurveda, there will be resistance from the allopathic tradition back in India. They control healthcare. And the Ayurvedic system doesn't necessarily have the interlocutors it needs, because we just don't want to talk about the samhitas, the charak, the sushruta, and the ashtanga hridaya and so on. We want Ayurveda to be dynamic so that it's also taking advantage of all the modern sciences. It's got to become the health system of the world, just as yoga is the system of knowing oneself, right? That's what yoga is ultimately, and what yoga also is, which its critics, India has many critics also. Why does India have many critics? Because India is the challenge to the Western hegemonic view of history and the world and man at this point, or the human at this point, because the Western view of society and man is that everything is material, everything is about consumption, right? And about things. So how do we control man? By controlling informational and physiological and and substance things associated with these relationships, right? The Indian view doesn't deny that these things are important. Food is important, information is important, art is important, but it has an additional category, which the most thoughtful people in the West are aware of it. The most thoughtful people, I can tell you, and I know some of them personally, are aware that the world would ultimately have to use Indian categories to make sense of itself. You know, in America right now, the wealthiest country which has ever been, 60, 70,000 people every year, and these are young people who look good looking, their children, young children, etc., they die of opioid overdoses. Why? Because they don't know what life is all about. They are addicted. They have lost control of their own lives. It's not that they lack money. They have everything, but they don't have all those tools that are necessary, which sprung up, which are universal tools. We are connected to it because we grew up on this, land of India, Bharatvarsh, right? And we know, and the rishis put these things together, and we are connected, and they have many different ways of perpetuating it. Not just the Vedas, which of course not very many people understand, but then you had the Upanishads, you had the Brahmanas, you had the Sutras, then you had the Itihasas, right? You had stories, you had the Puranas, you had for every level. So that and then you had the music, you had the Sangeet, you had Kalas, 64 Kalas and so on. So all of this created a matrix, which was like a great place for every person, irrespective of what their background was, to get connected and to become the person that they should be. Because ultimately, if one were to put it simply, the society should be such so that the genius in every individual potentially is a genius. The creativity in every individual should be given a play. They should be able to get that. And once you do that, you will be a happy individual. In fact, there are lots of problems related to wellness are because of psychosomatic reasons. People are unhappy. They are unhappy because the body has its own wisdom. The body knows that what it's supposed to be doing is not being able to do because of various reasons, societal and related to self-knowledge itself. So if we were then to come up with rejuvenating or renaissance of our knowledge in a academically coherent and way which has integrity, which is devoted to universal principles and ideas, which talks of equality. We are not talking of this knowledge is available and should be available to every human being, no matter where they are from, which community they are from. It's nothing to do with community or jati or varna or whatever else, these are all traps which the Western hegemonic individual has placed on India. And a lot of people are caught in these traps. These are very excitable people at these universities who are talking of revolution and so on, because they don't understand India at all, right? And it's our challenge then to make it possible for them to know it in a way where they're journeying. You don't know it all in a moment, but your life should be a journey where, as you know it, you also get transformed, right? And that's what ultimately, rebirth, the second birth or rebirth is all about. Or freedom, or moksha is freedom from this whole sequence of reflexive action. Karma is reflexive. Something has happened and you do it because we are also a machine. We are both free and we are also machine. So how do we understand this all? And it's all out there. And how to then, first of all, spread it and spread it in a way so that this information is curated, it is reliable, and that our commitment to truth should be paramount. We're doing it because this is universal knowledge, and if we do it that way, and we should approach every other individual in a respectful way, because if people don't know about this, it's not their fault. It's we have to change that situation, and I'm hoping that certainly Mimamsa Foundation would do what needs to be done. And I think ultimately this task is so much more. It goes so much more beyond reclaiming India itself, but the challenge is really worldwide. There is a huge crisis, and this crisis is also um, triggered by technology, pervasive automation, that jobs will disappear, more and more jobs will be done. 50-60% of Americans are in the food business. Now you can have robots which can do everything that is done in a kitchen, right? And such robots are already being produced. All other jobs of office stuff can be done by computers, AI. Agriculture is mostly done by machines, right? You just need a very small number of people. Given that, the question of who we are, who the human being is, becomes more important than ever before. And this is why we do need Mimamsa. Without Mimamsa, we cannot understand it. So through Mimamsa, through connections to the darshanas, there are different perspectives. The Mimamsa is that there are different perspectives on the mystery of our existence. And these perspectives provide us the internal inner knowledge to navigate our way through the complexities of life, of social and personal life, and also help us go over different steps in our own personal journey, and have come up with a deeper and deeper understanding of life. And doing that, we become more than just ourselves. The Sangha ultimately is extremely important. Sangha meaning the community, which is something that some people might think that we are only speaking of the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangha. I'm talking about Buddha, who spoke about three, Buddham Sharanam Gacchami, Sangham Sharanam Gacchami, Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami. There is a Sangha ultimately. And sadly, for a few centuries, maybe the Sangha aspect had been minimized within India. So we must, each one of us, more than just ourselves, also think of the larger community. And I think what the Ranade couple is doing is a wonderful thing. You are going outside of yourselves and connecting to the larger, society outside. And we need more of this, and that will transform India and the world. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It was really engaging and insightful talk. As you ended on the note that we need to go beyond ourselves, we need to enhance, and we need to grow into a sangha and a group which will look into Mimamsa aspect of your life. And I think for that, Indian knowledge system is going to help you, because as you rightly pointed out, universal truths are there in the Indic knowledge system, and they are going to help you to sail through all the problems that we are, as a human community, as a global community, that we will be facing in the coming future. And I must say that during these times, this thought is very important, because everybody is reflecting right now. So when we are reflecting on the current situation that we are having around us, going back to Indic roots, going back to what India has to say about who you are is quite important, and it is going to be very cardinal for the communities to come, for the generations to come. Thank you so much, sir, once again. We were looking forward to this lecture, and we are happy that we could gain wisdom from you through this lecture. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Namaskar.
Yeah, now we are almost coming to the end of this session. I would now like Akshay to propose a vote of thanks formally.
Thank you, Samhita. Indeed, whatever sir just now said, it's like a whole lot of issues compressed in one lecture, but it actually revolves around one central theme, that you must be rooted to your values. And once you are rooted to those values, probably a lot many other things becomes easier for us to comprehend. And there are two important points which I really want to highlight, which sir said. One was about the connection between power and knowledge, something which is at times get overlooked or probably is not given attention to, but something which has been very much a reality for India. We have been in past, we have been overpowered because of lack of our own understanding, and we continue to be, remain ignorant to those aspects of India's own value systems. And coming back or going back to those value system probably could be the key for self-confidence of a nation as a whole. I think as a nation, when a nation actually gains that self-confidence, it actually evolves and goes back to where it was. Something which we enjoyed once in the past, like sir pointed out, we were the biggest contributor to the global GDP, around 30%. That was a time when India was leading the roost across the globe, but somehow we were reduced down to 1%. And that because nation lost its self-confidence, nation lost its roots. And I think once we, and to sort of gain back, we need to create an ecosystem which will guide us and which will probably make our coming generations aware of kind of heritage which we have. And therefore, not only spreading, but curating the knowledge, curating the whatever research that is happening is very much important, because it has to come through all the scrutiny, all the rigor, and all the objectivity that is required. We have a lot of knowledge system now. We need to curate it and bring it to the people. That is, I think, will be the key for the renaissance that sir was talking about. That curating the knowledge and then spreading it will be the key for the re-renaissance of Indian value system. Wonderful thoughts, wonderful ideas. Thank you, sir, for actually sharing that with us. I'm sure all of our viewers will be looking at this as a compass for their future research, future studies. So I really want to thank you for your time. I also want to thank all of our mentors, Dr. Joshi sir, Dr. Gokhale ma'am, and also Dr. Pillai sir, for taking us time. Whatever you said, we have registered. We know this is just a small beginning, but we take this opportunity to tell you that your confidence in us and your belief in us will not be wasted. We will strive hard to move every step. We will work and sort of move forward from here. So thank you once again for taking out time guiding us, and we hope that this will continue in future also. And thank you all of us, our viewers, for watching this. I'm sure this would be a lot of, in Marathi we say that this is a shidori. Shidori is your whatever stage you have for carrying out your activities in future. This is something that we have received. Thank you all of you. Please, if you think that you want to ask any question, if you want anything, that we please post it in the comment section, and we'll make sure that those things are addressed to. So thank you once again, all of you, for joining us. Over to you, Somi.
Thank you, Akshay. I must say that the entire lecture and thoughts shared by our mentors are going to give a new outlook for all those who wish to study India and who wish to inquire about India. We will be arranging various such programs, and we will be continuing to publish articles on the similar lines. I would like all of you to comment us and feel free to give us your feedback. What do you feel about this entire initiative? If you have any suggestion as how to expand this initiative, we are free. Please do comment, do share within your circle. We also have all the activities there on our website. You can visit our website, which is www.bharatmimamsa.com. You can like, share our handles on Twitter, Instagram, then Facebook, then LinkedIn. And also do not forget to subscribe to our channel, because we will be coming with more such engaging and insightful lectures ahead in the future. And for continuous updates, please stay tuned to us. Stay safe and take care. Thank you.